All right, in this program, we're going to edit some text, specifically some HTML stuff. So this one's called HTML Text Editor. It's a typical free response question. It's not one of the questions from a past AP test, but it looks like it's used in one of the labs from the new labs, I think Magpie. So anyway, it says, let's see here. When web developers wanted to convert plain text documents to HTML, they need to make changes to the text to insert tags and replace certain characters. For this question, you will write part of the class to convert text to HTML. You will write methods to replace underscores with the tags indicating the text should be in italics. Okay, so here's the HTML text editor class, and I set that up in NetBeans, so I'm not going to go through a lot of this, but it looks like it's got a constructor that gets passed in the string line to format, and that gets assigned to line. I think I did mine just a little bit different, but it's the same kind of idea. Then for this first one, it finds the first string, it finds the first string instance of str in the line starting at the start position. Okay, this one counts the string, so what is it doing? Count the number of times a single instance of str appear in the line. So what's cool is that part B, most of the code is from part A, so we just call part A and it does most of the work for us. And same with part C, it'll call, I think it'll call both of them. Let's do one at a time though. It says part A, write the method find string. This method will take a string of length 1 to find in the line at a given starting point. It will return the location of the goal string. This differs from the index of method of string class because it requires a string to just a single instance of the string. So if the string appears 2 or more times consecutively, it will not return any of those values. If there is no single instance, the method should. Okay, so right here, I'm going to turn on my screen sketch. Okay, so you can't use index of, yeah, you can't use index of because, for instance, if this is your string, it won't return this because there's A and A is next to each other, all right? So you got to test for something like this. This would be your first test. So you got to check to see in position 0, okay? But then you could have something like, I don't know, A, B, A, C, A, and you, A. So you got to check the last position right here and see if the previous string is the same, and if it is, then you can't use that. Okay, so because you could start in the last position, so you can start in the first, you can start in the last, and then for if you start anywhere in the middle, like let's say you have A, B, A, B, C. Let's say you start in this one, you have to check the previous one, okay? But you also need to check this one, the one in front of it, because that could be A too. You could have, you could have AAA. If you start there, it doesn't work because it's next to each other here and here. If it starts here, it won't work because of this one. If it starts here, it won't work because of this one. So you have to check both sides of it. So we should be able to get started on writing this one. This first one is, it looks like it's difficult, but it's not too bad. So I set up the test for this. It wants you to test for this string right here, and it wants you to check in position 0, so that won't work. And wait a second, I think if you don't find it, it wants to return -1. Yeah. So if there is no single instance, the method should return -1. Okay. So look in position 0, 4, and 0, 4, and 0 again. All right, cool. And it's looking for A, B, and then C here. So we can get started with this one. So I set this up. I called this so that AABACCB gets passed in, and it gets assigned to my line format. Okay, so you start off with x as -1. So if it doesn't find it, it returns -1 right there. Okay. Let's see here. So you need to do a for loop for int I is equal to the start position. That's right here. That's what gets passed in. Okay. As long as I is greater than or equal to 0, and I is less than or equal to my line to format dot length -1 I plus plus. So basically here you don't want to have an index out of bounds there. Okay, that's some error checking right there. So we're checking to see if it's in the first position. So if I is equal to 0 and let's do this, yeah. I like lining these up. My line to format dot char at position I is equal to the str dot char at 0 and so right here, if my character at 0, okay, because we start at 0, if it's 0, and I think it's looking for string A, so if A is equal to A, which it is, and my line to format dot char at I plus 1, so that's the next one. If that is equal to, if that is not equal to the string dot char at 0, so here if A, the position 0 is equal to A, and if the next one A is not equal to A, okay, then we've got a legit one, and we can go what? Return x equal to I. So that's finding where it's at. Okay, so your x position is your first one it finds is at position I. Okay, so that's if it's finding it at 0. Now we want to find it if it's at the length. So else if, and the cool part about this is if we're finding the last one, it's the exact same thing, I believe. Well, I'll just write it out. I'll write it out. This would also return x equals I. We got to do this. We got to say I is equal to my line to format dot length -1, so that gives us the last position, and my line to format dot char at, if whatever my character at I is equal to what? str.char at 0, and my line to format dot char at I -1, so that's the last one. If that is not equal to my str.char at position 0, then it's legitimate. Else we'll do an if statement in here. And this will also be return x equals I. All right, so this, again, this one finds position 0 if the next one's fine. This one looks at your last position and checks for the previous one, so I minus 1, and sees if they're not equal. If they're not, then that's a legit one. Okay. Finally, you're looking for any of them next to each other in the middle of your string. So if my line to format dot char at position I is equal to string dot char at 0, and my line to format dot char at I plus 1, if that's not equal to str dot char at I minus 1, that would be before it. Okay. I think this should work. Let's test it out. So we get 3, 6, and -1. Let's check it out here. Yep, our results are 3, 6, and -1. Okay, so that one tests, that one's fine. All right, so now we gotta check count strings. Okay, so we're gonna count the number of times it occurs. All right, so let's get in here. Okay, so I'll have int count equal to 0, int start equal to 0, while, now this is slick, this is real slick right here. So while find string, we pass in the string and the start position. Okay, while that's greater than or equal to 0, meaning they find something in there, then we count it, add 1 to it, and then we set our new start position equal to our find string str start, our start position, plus 1. So if it finds it, it will add count to it, and now it's trying to find afterwards. We have a new start position. So initially our start position is 0. So if we find it in position 2, then we'll start from position 3 onwards for the next one. Okay, and then that's it, I think. Return count. So let's look at this one. I think that's everything. Let's see if I made a mistake here. 1, 2, and 0. So I didn't even read this one, but I knew what it was going to do. 1, 2, and 0. So it says write the method count string. This method will take a string of length 1 to find in the line. It will return the number of times single instances of the goal string appear in the string. So that was just counting them all up. So A, if we look at that whatever it is, it wasn't there. It's just right here. So it occurs 1. B would occur 1, 2. And C would occur 0. So that's what we end up getting, 1, 2, and 0. And the last one, this one's kind of a difficult one too. But let's look at this. It says write the method convert italics if the line has an even number of single underscores. If it has an even number of underscores, a line with those underscores converted to alternating I and closing I tags should be returned. The first underscore will be converted to I, and the second to dash I, the third to I, and so on. If the line does not have even number of I tags, the original line should be returned. Consider the following example. All right, so this one's got even number, and it looks good, so it'd be I and dash I. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one looks good, so this one only has 1, so it would just return the original, and this one has 2, but they're next to each other. So this is why we did, we wanted to count the number of occurrences, but we also wanted to check to see if they were next to each other, because you don't want tags with nothing in between them. Okay, so let's go in here, go into main, and I'll delete this, and I'll delete that. So I had to change the text editors for each test right here. Okay, so all right, so first thing we want to test to see if there's an even number of them. So if count strings, and we pass in an underscore. If that, so that will return the number of times the underscore is displayed. If that modulus 2 is equal to 1, meaning that there's an odd number of them, we just return count. And that's just this method right above. We pass in that in here. It checks to see the count, returns the count. If the modulus of it is 1, then return my line to format. Okay. We'll create a string str. We'll set that equal to underscore. Start. Okay. We need an int start. We want to start at 0 when we're running through this thing. And we're going to have a string tag, and we're doing just our I tag. Okay. All right, next up, while. We got to find the string, so find string while it exists. We got to pass in, we're looking for the underscore, so str, comma, and we're going to start at position 0. Okay. And while that returns something greater than or equal to, greater than equal to 0, then we'll come in here and we'll do some work. Why is that going nuts right now? Because I haven't returned anything yet. Here, return my line to format. That'll make it feel better. Okay. All right, so now we got to convert this my line to format. So if it finds this, we'll say my line to format equals. All right, so my line to format equals my line to format dot substring. We start in position 0, and we find the string position str. That's the underscore, comma the start, which is 0, 0, 0. Sorry, that defines where the first occurrence of the underline is. Okay. So it goes 0 to that whatever occurrence, whatever returns. If it returns 5, it would go 0 to position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because remember, it's really 5 minus 1. So then we start at 0. Plus our tag. So it would add our tag in. Okay. Plus my line 2 format dot substring, and then it's going to find the string wherever it is, if it's there, dot start, and then +1. Okay. All right. And so that would add in this tag right here. So now what we got to do is we have to switch to the -i in here. So if tag dot equals I, then tag needs to equal okay, and then we switch it back for the next go at it. Else tag equals okay, and we just do this over and over again until all the underlines are replaced with either I or -i. So if it finds this one, then the next one it finds, underline it finds, it's gonna tag is gonna be equal to this. Okay, as we go through it. So let's look at this. All right, this is very good. Okay, this was only 1, so it returned it, and these are next to it, so it returned it. Let's make sure those are correct. Okay, that's what we had. That looks good. That looks good. Good, good. Okay, so study this one. This is, you know, it's not that bad to program out on the computer because you can test it a bunch. And I didn't get this right the first time I did this, so you know, you being new programming students, you'd have to kind of work through this, the logic, and kind of think about how this would work. But yeah, you're required to write this out by hand, so definitely study this kind of stuff, and talk to you later.